everything's negotiable in politics. And one of the things that I'm already thinking about is official party status. That number is arbitrary of 12. The NDP voice in Parliament is critical. When you have official party status, you get question period time, you get a seat at committee tables, and you also get some resources, research and communications and legislative. So, I look forward to meeting with my colleagues and coming out with a proposal that we can bring to Parliament whenever it starts sitting. And we've ruled nothing out at this time.
That's Don Davies on this program last night, one of just 7 NDP MPs left standing after Monday's vote. The party losing 17 of its 24 seats, meaning it no longer qualifies for automatic official party status. What went wrong and what's next for the party? Jennifer Howard was the NDP's national campaign director. She was also Jagmeet Singh's chief of staff and is a former Manitoba NDP minister. Hello, Ms. Howard. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure, Vashti. Thank you.
I say this with great respect, but it was a huge loss. It was a catastrophic loss for the party with status in the leader of the party. How do you explain it?
Yeah, it was a really hard night for lots of people, lots of good people that poured their heart and soul into the campaign. Really hard to see great MPs lose, great candidates. Really glad folks like Don Davies will be there. We just weren't the answer to the question that people were going into the ballot box. We're going into to mark their X with. We were the answer for many of them, but not enough of them. And I think that's the reality. The question, throughout the campaign, the question that was put in front of folks, the narrative of the campaign was to elect a prime minister who was going to go and deal with Donald Trump. And we were not the answer to that question for a lot of people.
What responsibility does the party bear for not being the answer to that question?
Yeah, I think in the coming weeks and months, there'll be a lot of discussion about that. I think, this is not new that being the answer to questions about the economy is not often something that is a strong suit for the NDP. It's true in provinces as well. I was part of a provincial government as a provincial NDP finance minister. It's, always a challenge to be credible on those issues as a New Democrat. So I think that is part of what we have to pay attention to in the coming years, is how we regain or get some more credibility on that, how we talk about the economy in real terms and people's jobs and how you pay the bills and how you afford a mortgage. I think we can connect with folks in that way. But that's work we have to do in the future. That's not new. That's not new to this campaign. That's an ongoing challenge for us.
I guess I have a question as it pertains to the uniqueness of Mr. Singh's leadership and the party under Mr. Singh. And to what degree do you think perhaps the agreement with the Liberals, for example, projected the image that the party wanted to be more about influence than power? And if ultimately you think that informed the way people in this country view your party?
I don't think so. We did a lot of research, a lot of polling, a lot of focus groups on the way to the campaign and in the campaign. For voters who were open to us, they saw the influence as a positive. They saw the dental care and pharmacare and paid sick leave and all the things we achieved as a net gain. They expect us to go to Parliament and actually try to get things done. Most people expect the folks they just elected to go to the House of Commons and try to work for them. I just, before I came in here, looked at my phone for a message from someone who I've worked with about their brother that's about to get dental care. Folks know that that's what we did, and they appreciate that. But that wasn't the question in this campaign. And so, I don't think that the agreement weakened us in that sense. I think the agreement made it more difficult for us to be a critic of the Liberal government, and it made it more difficult for people to see us in the question around change. I think that was the challenge of the agreement for us.
Was there a way to navigate the desire to see, influence over programs like dental care without entering into something formal with the Liberals? And I know that you used to get that question, and so did Mr. Singh for a long time. But I do think, just from the conversations I've had with people, with Canadians on my radio show, for example, that it really that they started to link your party with the Liberals very explicitly, and it was very hard to extricate that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and certainly something I've spent some time thinking about. I think the reality is, in a minority government situation, the government in power knows that they've probably got a year to 18 months of runway. Very unlikely that anybody is going to want to bring the government down and go to another election right away, because usually that results in a majority for the governing party. And you can keep a government going and you can extract small things in budgets. But if you want to do something big, like dental care that takes multiple years to happen, or pharmacare that takes multiple years, I think the only way to get a big program like that off the ground is by providing stability for a few years in a row. So I don't think there was a way to get something like dental care or pharmacare, the beginnings of pharmacare across the finish line, without giving a little bit more security. And I think what we knew at the time we were talking about the agreement is, and I think what the Liberals knew, is they weren't worried about the first 2 years. They were worried about year 3 and year 4. And that was really why we were able to force them to do something like dental care, is to give them a little bit more certainty than just the first 18 months.
Toward the end of the campaign, Mr. Singh received questions about why didn't you get out of that agreement and essentially topple the government? Because you eventually, in September, got out of the agreement and said you would rip it up. But there was this confusing kind of back and forth about then what that meant for your support for the Liberal Party. Ultimately, it meant that the NDP supported the Liberals through a number of confidence votes. I was reading some analysis that showed the last one, the third one, I think, that you supported them at. At that point, you were projected to win 25 seats, and that was like toward the end of last year. Mr. Singh kind of tried to make the argument that he put country over party because he was so afraid of Pierre Poilievre getting in. Was that a mistake? And ultimately, isn't the proof of that mistake that there's no party to speak of anymore in an official capacity?
I don't think that's a mistake, and I don't think that's why we lost the way we did. I don't think the confidence and supply agreement had anything to do with that loss. I think, there were lots of factors that we didn't foresee. I did not have on my campaign planning sheet that Donald Trump would try to annex the country, or Chrystia Freeland would decide to, step down as finance minister the same day she was supposed to give her mini budget. So I don't think that's true. I do think what is true is there is a path in the fall, and there is a path, internally we were showing a path to 40 to 50 seats in the fall. And I think there was a possibility in the fall, if things broke different ways, that we could even end up as official opposition. And that question was put to Jagmeet. We had that conversation and laid out, this is the path. The other likely outcome is that the Conservatives will win a majority and Pierre Poilievre will be the Prime Minister, and that will put dental care at risk because they were promising to get rid of it. We hadn't got pharmacare off the ground. So, that is the trade-off. And he could not bring himself, even though it meant ultimately that he has to step down as leader, he could not bring himself to risk pharmacare and dental care in order to win 20 or 30 more seats.
But it's not just him stepping down as leader. It's your party without resources, without, a real say in Parliament. So now you've lost all the future influence that you could have had to make sure, for example, pharmacare is fully built out, or that the rest of dental care gets implemented, or whatever other programs you want to make sure are still in the window. Again, I think it's fair to challenge the idea that that was the most effective thing to do for Canadians, even.
I think it was the most effective thing to do at the time, knowing what we knew at the time, and I think it was the best decision that could be made with the information that we had. There will be a process of rebuilding. It is painful to be where we're at. It is painful for me to know that this is the campaign that I ran, and I take responsibility for the outcome. But getting dental care for kids and seniors, and now hopefully all adults, if we can hold Mr. Carney to his word, I think most New Democrats believe that that is worthwhile. And it is an unfortunate reality in politics that sometimes doing the right thing comes with consequences that you don't always foresee, and this is one of those circumstances.
Are you sure it was the right thing? And I ask because there was a lot of effort by the New Democrats to say Pierre Poilievre will do all of these things, take away all of these programs. Ultimately, what he came out with in the campaign was not, I'm going to take away everything. Actually, his fiscal positioning around spending cuts is not very different at all than Mark Carney's. It basically involves a reduction in consultation or outside consultants and a reduction in the public service through attrition. He said he would keep dental care for the people who have it, child care for the people that have it. He wasn't the boogeyman necessarily that your party said he would be, and it came at a great cost to your party ultimately. Was that strategy an error?
Well, first of all, I don't believe him. I believe somebody who's voted against things like that for his entire 20-year career. I believe the votes, not the words in a platform on the eve of an election. But also the reality of a program like dental care, and I think what we knew is that unless people have it, unless they're experiencing it, unless they're actually sitting in that, it's a bad metaphor, but unless they're sitting in the dentist chair getting their teeth fixed, it's easy to take away. It's easy to take away the idea of something. It's easy to take away the promise of something. It's much harder to take that dental card out of a senior's hand or a parent's hand, or hopefully in the future, a person who doesn't have that care. I think that sticking around, sticking it out, means that dental care is going to be very hard for any government to undo now. I don't think the same is true of pharmacare, unfortunately, and I think New Democrats and others are going to have to continue to put pressure on this government to follow through with pharmacare.
Last question for you is about the future. Are you concerned about any of the 7 MPs that were elected as New Democrats being lured over to government to help form a majority?
I am not. I think that I know those 7 people. I've worked with them. They are strong New Democrats. But I also would say, floor crossers are punished in this country. People voted for New Democrats. Anyone who voted New Democrat in this election and elected an NDP MP expects to get an NDP MP. And I think an NDP member of Parliament who thought that they could take those voters' wishes for granted and then disappoint them will find that they will be unelected very quickly. But I'm not worried about that. This caucus worked together in some very difficult times through the pandemic and through the last few years, and came together and supported each other. And I think those 7 people that are elected, that's who they are. They're going to continue to work together and support each other.
I'll leave it on that note. Ms. Howard, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Howard is the campaign director for the NDP.